Good afternoon. Thank you for attending the Connecticut Department of Transportation virtual public hearing for the proposed rail fare changes in 2025 and 2026. My name is Dan Baker. I'm a supervising planner with the Connecticut DOT, Bureau of Public Transportation. I will be moderating today's public hearing. Today's hearing will include a 15-minute presentation on the proposed rail fare changes, as well as the department's fare equity analysis of the proposed changes. Following the presentation, we will open up the hearing to comments from members of the public. We currently have 9 individuals registered to attend today's hearing. One important housekeeping note: if you are present and would like to speak during the public comment portion of the hearing, please write your first and last name in the Q&A tab on Zoom. You will be called by name once the public comment portion begins following the presentation. At that point, you will have 3 minutes to share your comments with the panelists. Panelists joining us this afternoon from the Connecticut Department of Transportation include Rail Administrator Rich Jankovich and Transportation Planner Sam Savadu. At this time, I'll turn it over to Rail Administrator Rich Jankovich for opening remarks.
Thank you, Dan. Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for attending today's public hearing on the proposed fare changes for the rail services in Connecticut in September 2025 and July of 2026. Your attendance and input at today's hearing are valued and critically important to ensuring we deliver a safe, accessible, and equitable public transportation system in Connecticut. All comments received during today's hearing and throughout the entire public comment period will be recorded and carefully reviewed as we finalize the proposed fare changes. Earlier this month, the Connecticut State Legislature adopted a biannual budget that was signed by the governor. The bipartisan budget included funding levels for all rail services, accounting for 5% increase to fares and all rail lines in the state in both fiscal years 26 and 27. Fares are a critical source of revenue to the state's extensive public transportation system, supporting a safe and reliable system while helping maintain existing service levels. Thank you again for attending today's hearing and providing your feedback to Connecticut Department of Transportation.
Thank you, Rich. And just one more reminder, if you would like to speak during the public comment portion of today's hearing, please type your first and last name in the Q&A tab on Zoom. At this point, I will pass it over to Sam Savadu, Transportation Planner from the Connecticut Department of Transportation, to begin the presentation.
Thank you, Dan. Again, welcome to the Connecticut Department of Transportation rail fare hearing. We will cover the following this afternoon. First, we'll talk about how to use Zoom, then Title VI information, followed by additional presentation information, service and fare equity analysis process overview. We'll review the proposed rail fare changes, as well as the fare equity analysis, then the public comment period, and lastly, we'll provide an opportunity for members of the public to provide formal public comment about the rail fare changes. To view captions and subtitles in Zoom, first click Show Captions, then click the speaking language, then select the language you would like from the list shown. Closed captioning, including non-English translation options, are available on YouTube after the event. To use the Q&A function on Zoom, select the Q&A tool at the bottom of the Zoom webinar window. The Q&A window will open as seen on the right. Please type the question in the text box and click Enter. If you are an audio-only participant, dial *9 to raise and lower your hand. During today's hearing, all participants will be muted until called upon to speak. Closed captioning is provided in real time on Zoom. Please note that today's hearing is being recorded and all public comments will become part of the public record. The public comment portion of the hearing will follow this presentation. The Connecticut Department of Transportation is committed to ensuring that no person is excluded from participation, denied benefits, or otherwise subjected to discrimination under any program or activity on the basis of race, color, or national origin, Please visit the following webpage for more information on our Title VI program and your rights under Title VI. We encourage you to complete the voluntary feedback survey. Survey information helps the department conduct the most inclusive and representative outreach possible. Survey responses are anonymous and will be used strictly to achieve this goal. Esta encuesta también está disponible en español. The link to the survey can be accessed from the Zoom chat today. For more information about our Title VI program and how to file a complaint, please reference our Title VI notice on the screen. This information can also be found on our Title VI webpage. And here's the same Title VI information in Spanish. Para más información sobre el Programa de Derechos Civiles del CTDOT y el proceso de presentar una queja, comuníquese con la coordinadora de Título 6 de CTDOT al siguiente número de teléfono o en la página web. Presentation slides are currently available on the state webpage. After the public hearings, the hearing recordings will be available on the webpage as well. Please visit ct.gov/dot/proposed transit changes for additional information. In accordance with Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and Federal Transit Administration Circular 4702.1b, CTDOT conducts an equity analysis of proposed fare changes or major service changes to determine if the changes will have a disparate impact on minority customers or a disproportionate burden on low-income customers. The department is required to analyze major service changes that are expected to continue beyond 12 months and any fare changes beyond 6 months. According to the CTDOT Title VI program, a fare equity analysis will be conducted whenever CTDOT proposes a fare change, regardless of the amount of increase or decrease. A fare change is defined as an increase or decrease in fares on the entire system, on certain transit modes, or by fare payment type or fare media. This is an overview of the process we follow for the fare equity analysis. We're currently in the public hearing stage. The public comment period began on June 6, 2025, and will run through July 6, 2025. Following the conclusion of the public comment period, all public comments will be considered by the department in the finalization of the equity analysis. All fare changes are analyzed to determine whether the proposed changes will have a disparate impact or disproportionate burden. Disparate impact means a policy or practice that disproportionately affects members of a group identified by race, color, or national origin. Disproportionate burden means a policy or practice that disproportionately affects low-income populations. I will now pass it on to Dan Baker to provide an overview of the proposed rail fare changes.
Thank you, Sam. Connecticut DOT proposes increasing fares for Shoreline East, Hartford Line, and Metro North New Haven Line services in Connecticut, including the New Canaan, Danbury, and Waterbury branch lines. Fares are a critical source of revenue to the department and its service providers' ability to operate a safe and reliable transportation system while maintaining current service levels and supporting rising costs. The targeted increases for all lines are 5% in September 2025 and an additional 5% in July 2026. As a result of rounding to the nearest 25 cents for each fare, the actual percentage increase to specific ticket types for start and end stations may vary. The average changes in fare by line and by year are shown on this slide and are all approximately 5%. Next slide. As a reminder, fares represent only a portion of the total costs needed to operate rail service throughout Connecticut. For example, for Metro North lines in 2024, fare revenue accounted for approximately 30% of the total cost to operate the service. The difference is made up with other revenue sources and subsidies. Rising costs ultimately means that revenues also need to periodically increase. Rail fares in Connecticut were last increased by approximately 4.5% in August 2023 on Hartford Line, Shoreline East, and the New Haven Line. Prior to this, rail fares had not increased since 2018. With the proposed increase in September 2025 and July 2026, the increase in rail fare since 2018 will be less than inflation in the same period. Inflation has driven consumer prices up by approximately 28% since 2018, while by 2026, rail fares will have increased by between 14 and 15%. Fares paid by customers, as mentioned previously, are dependent on the ticket type purchased and the start and end stations of the journey. This slide here demonstrates what CT Rail Hartford Line customers could expect to pay with the proposed increases. For example, a one-way ticket between Hartford and New Haven would be increasing from the current $8.25 to $8.75 in September 2025 and to $9.25 in July 2026. A monthly pass between those two stations would increase from $173.25 today to $182 in September 2025 and $191 in July 2026. Other station pairs such as Meriden to New Haven and Meriden to Hartford are included on the table on this slide. Likewise, this slide demonstrates what Shoreline East customers could expect to pay with the proposed increases. A one-way ticket between New London and New Haven would be increasing from the current $10.75 to $11.25 in September 2025 and to $11.75 in July 2026. Monthly passes between those two stations would be increasing from $225.75 today to $237 in September 2025 and $248.75 in July 2026. Additional station pairs are also included on this table. And finally, this slide demonstrates what Metro North Railroad New Haven Line customers would expect to pay with the proposed increases. For example, a peak one-way ticket between Stamford and Grand Central would be increasing from the current $16 today to $17 in September 2025 and to $17.75 in July 2026. A monthly pass between those two stations would be increasing from the current $315 today to $334.75 in September 2025 and $349.50 in July 2026. Next slide. During the department's equity analysis, rail lines were analyzed individually as well as in combination. When combined, the equity analysis results showed that for minority customers, the average change in fare for all rail lines would be 5.12% in 2025 and 4.89% in 2026. For low-income customers, the average change would be 5.09% in 2025 and 5.0% in 2026. When compared to all customers, the differences for both minority customers and low-income customers are within 0.2%, which is well below the 5% disparate impact or disproportionate burden threshold policy. We found that the proposed fare increases for 2025 and 2026 for the Hartford Line, Shoreline East, and New Haven Line do not have a disparate impact on minority customers, nor a disproportionate burden on low-income customers, whether analyzed individually or in aggregate. Full details of the equity analysis can be found in the draft equity analysis report available on the state webpage. Comments regarding the proposed rail fare changes and the equity analysis can be made in a variety of ways. One way is by making a public statement during today's virtual public hearing. If you would like to provide a comment and speak after the presentation, but have not registered yet, please type your first and last name in the Q&A tab on Zoom. Additional methods include submitting a comment via email at dot.proposedtransitchanges@ct.gov. You can also comment by leaving a voicemail at 860-594-3612. You can comment by mail by submitting mail to the address on the screen, and all comments will be accepted up until 11:59 p.m. on July 6th, 2025. 4 public hearings were scheduled to receive public comments on the proposed rail fare changes. These included 2 in-person hearings last week in Stamford and New Haven, and 2 virtual hearings this week, including this one this afternoon. Next slide. Thank you for listening to today's presentation. We will now transition to the public comment portion of today's hearing. We are looking to see if anyone has registered to provide comment. Currently, there are no individuals registered to speak, but if you would like to, just type your first and last name in the Q&A tab on Zoom. Alternatively, if you are an audio-only participant calling in by phone, dial *9 to raise your hand, and we can unmute you that way as well. Please note that no questions will be answered by the moderator or any of the panelists during the hearing or comment portion of this meeting, and all comments made during this hearing will be recorded and transcribed for the record. We will be here until 2 p.m. today, and I see that we have one person who has signed up to provide comment, Dimitris Koutambas. Dimitris, you should be off mute.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, Dan. Hi, Sam. It's nice to see you again. We spoke in person in New Haven. I did provide written testimony. I just left a couple points out I wanted to make that I want to make here. Yeah, essentially, like I mentioned, the big gap in the southbound morning schedule from Hartford to New Haven. There's no trains between 8:12 and 9:20. I think that's a big service disruption that we're currently experiencing. I know it's because of track work and big capital project that's going on. But I feel like the disruption is twofold. The timetables are already inconvenient, as I mentioned, but even the scheduled trains experience frequent and mid-trip delays. So, like, I feel like a lot of the times that I come in to New Haven in the morning, they basically are placed on hold between Hartford and Berlin for 5 and 10 minutes. So I just want to make the point that the disruption is twofold between the timetable gap and the current service. Another point I wanted to make is when you compare like Metro North monthly passes between the Hartford line monthly passes, monthly pass between Bridgeford and Stamford or Stamford and New Haven costs significantly less than a monthly pass between Hartford and New Haven. So, like for the Metro North lines, these are trips on trains that run more frequently with better reliability. Yet Hartford line riders, many of whom rely on less frequent and regularly delayed service, are being asked to pay more. I feel like that should be considered in terms of like an equity analysis. I don't feel like it's equitable to raise fares on the Hartford line, which provides less service and serves fewer trains and frequently experiences delays, while other parts of the state's transit network, Metro North lines between Stamford and Bridgeford, offer faster and more consistent service. So yeah, I feel like it's not a good time to raise fares right now, considering the 2 points, additional points I made above. Thank you again for the opportunity to test.
Thank you, Dimitri, for calling in today and providing your comments. We appreciate it. Checking to see if there are any new members of the public who have signed up to provide comment today to the panelists. We are here till 2 p.m. today. We will stay on the Zoom call until 2 p.m. But seeing that there are no other attendees who are currently signed up to provide comment, we are going to pause the hearing at 12:20 p.m. As mentioned, we'll be here till 2, but please stop the recording. We'll monitor the Q&A chat to see if any new members of the public join or anyone currently on the call would like to speak. So 12:20 p.m. we'll be pausing today's hearing. Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon. We had one additional member of the public, Jay Stange, join today's virtual public hearing. So we are reopening the public comment portion of today's hearing, and we will take Jay off mute so he can provide his comment.
Yeah, hi, Dan. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. Hey, thanks for the opportunity to comment. As many of you might know, I'm a huge supporter of public transportation and transit in Connecticut. Love all the work that we're doing to support ridership on our rail and our bus lines here in Connecticut. I'm concerned that right now, a rate increase for fares on our CT Transit buses, which is proposed is my understanding in the next year or two, as well as a rate increase for the rail services provided by Metro North and by CT Rail in Connecticut are going to be a burden on our folks who have fixed incomes and who don't have access to vehicles here in Connecticut. So I'm wondering if you guys in the future for communications around this fare increase, if you could please make sure that you explain some of the metrics around it. And my apologies if you already have done that on this call, but I'm curious what the two 5% CT Rail and Metro North rail fare increases are going to generate as an expected revenue source, like how much money in each fiscal year is that expected to provide? And what is going to be the impact, the concurrent impact, I should say, on low-income users who are going to be also apparently facing a bus fare increase in each of the next 2 years, which is my understanding. I don't believe that that DOT has announced that publicly, but it's my understanding from legislative budget discussions that that is something that has been proposed by the governor and by the commissioner. So love to hear in the future a response. If you're not prepared for it right now, that's fine, but I'd love to hear a response in the future about how these concurrent fare increases are going to impact low-income public transit users in our state. And yeah, once again, thank you. Sorry I couldn't join earlier at the start of the hearing. I had a work and a kid care commitment, but I'm glad to get a chance to participate today. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jay, for calling in. We appreciate your comments. And just one point of clarification. At this time, there are no bus fare increases that are proposed for the next 2 fiscal years, so they did not make it into the final state budget. So this hearing is specifically for rail fare increases in fiscal year 26 and 27. But thank you again, Jay, for calling in. All right, we're taking a look at the Q&A to see if there's anyone else who has signed up to speak. We are not seeing any new attendees who have joined. So at the time is 1:31 p.m. We will be pausing the virtual public hearing. Once again, we're here till 2 p.m., but it's 1:31 p.m. and we're pausing the hearing. Okay, the time is now 1:59 p.m. We have restarted the recording. On behalf of the Connecticut Department of Transportation, I would like to thank the members of the public who attended today's virtual public hearing on the proposed rail fare changes in 2025 and 2026. And thank you to the 2 individuals who spoke and provided comments during the public comment portion of today's hearing. As a reminder, the public comment period remains open through July 6th, 2025. Please visit ct.gov/DOT/proposed transit changes for full details of the proposed changes, the draft equity analysis report, and other ways to provide comments. The time is now 2 p.m. We are closing today's public hearing. Thank you and have a good afternoon.